It was almost real. The Pro Wrestling History Podcast, episode 40. Thank God I finally got the intro out. So I'm joined in studio this week, and this is not going to be a Christmas treat for you, but this is the Christmas episode. And I've already discovered we got 3 Zimmermans too many on this podcast, but I'm joined today by Dangerous Dan, my cousin.
Hello?
I was going to say, who's a mute all of a sudden.
Yeah.
I didn't want to get yelled at again.
We got Rain Man for the special guest.
My normal prodigal son, Caleb, has joined us as well.
Hi, very happy to be here.
He says with a lot of belief and sincerity.
It's Christmas. I'm supposed to be doing something else.
And then finally, my oldest son, Trey, is joining us today because we're reviewing a couple of martial artists. So we wanted to get his martial arts view upon the people that we're interviewing. So
some of those martial arts you have to put in air quotes, though.
Yes. But we'll take a look at that in a little bit. So this has been totally derailed just as we got started, and hopefully we'll be able to get back to some semblance of... Are you guys...
So, I didn't say anything. I learned my lesson from the intro.
So, and actually I saved this for this episode. I was going to rant in the last one, but I saved it because I know you and I do not share the same view on this particular topic.
Sure.
And so I went into Aldi's the other night to pick up some stuff really quickly. And I had just been in there like the week before. Mm. And I walk up to the front. I'm like, what the heck happened to the front of the store? Because they used to have the 6 lanes laid out.
Right.
Now they have 2 regular lanes with a cashier there.
Yeah. And
6 self-checkout lanes. So it's bad enough we got to deal with this crap when we go to Walmart, which I try to stay out of there as best I can. But now, one of my stores I like to shop in, because they get great prices for their groceries, now I got the same stuff. And so I'm sure they're going to go down. They had 2 cashiers there, and I go in late. So I just went to the cashier. But I'm sure they're going to get rid of everybody but one cashier. We'll have one disinterested kid there with a cell phone.
Possibly.
Who looks ticked off every time they have to do anything.
Right.
Look, the cost of doing business. If you are going to operate a store, you have to pop for having a cashier there. If you were going to give me 15 to 20% off my stuff to ring myself out, I would do it.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to do that just because you're too lazy to hire cashiers. So you put in 18 self-checkout lanes and put 2 cashiers in a 40-lane store.
Right. Was that the whole rant?
Yes, that's the whole rant.
Made it really sound big. No, so here's the caveat, right? So I agree with you on the taking over all that many lanes. No, you should have at least 3 to 6 people at best. Now, would I gladly pay someone to check out my own groceries at some places because of how little I trust the people working there? Absolutely. But I also work in management, and I work with computers, so I know that 12 self-checkout lanes means 12 error messages at any point at any night.
Exactly.
So you are sacrificing one thing or another. Mm-hmm. I want it as an option, not the standard.
And see, I guess because of my age, and your dad's age, I will be stubborn.
You could keep yourself in that statement, by the way.
Who's the oldest statements of this group?
I am.
Okay, then. Anyway, I kind of agree. I will be stubborn, and if I have over $100 worth of items in my cart when I go shopping, I'll stand in line to check it out. Because that's not my job, is to check out those groceries and make sure it's right. And then have some lady, sir, can I see your receipt?
Oh, that annoys me more than the self-checkout lane.
Yeah, it's like I'm on Facebook again.
Wow. That's where you guys start getting me on the argument, because I would prefer to go through the self-checkout because I'm faster than most of those mooks anyway.
Uh-huh.
And then I also just don't have to deal with them. It's just ring my stuff up and get out.
Right.
But whenever I get stopped for something, if I'm carrying a laptop, a TV, a video game, I get being stopped. That's big ticket items, but I don't want to be stopped for common groceries.
I was going to say,
or taking out toilet paper.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or when, I've got, I'll put the bottles of sodas on the side of the cart.
Right.
So, and they're like, oh, okay, those aren't in bags. I need to see if you paid for those. Lady, I just went. Do you think I'm going to go do the $100 worth of groceries and not bring up my root beer?
Yeah.
You know, it just.
Well, Walmart had to pay them for something.
Exactly. And that's another thing that I guess it was maybe about a year and a half ago. I went into Walmart,
right,
and they had these big red, white, and blue banners investing in American jobs. I was like, oh, okay, good for you guys. And then about 6 months later, where's the people at? Because it's all self-checkout stuff. So.
They put them in the bag where they're needed.
Apparently so, yeah. And go sleep on some pallets and,
I worked at Walmart. They had 3 people to a truck the size of this apartment, like at all times.
Oh, yeah. Well,
yeah.
I worked at the super center at an undisclosed location before I moved here.
Right.
And I was the produce manager.
Mm-hmm.
I had to be there at 4 o'clock in the morning to get that product, to get that truck. Mm-hmm. Bring it all the way the length of the store because where got it and where the produce was it seemed like a half a mile, and we didn't have those nice electric pallet jacks. They were manual ones, so you got to pull it all down there, put all your product up, get it, and then they want you to face the whole produce section and everything and be done with this by 6 o'clock when people start coming in.
Yeah.
So it was it's and then if you don't get it done, guess what? You're going to stay, and we're not going to pay you because your salary.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the first and last salary job I will accept. Now, with your managerial positions, are you salaried?
I am, yes.
Okay. So, do you notice the hours creeping in, or more hours, or?
Oh, well, I work extra hours just to get paperwork done.
Ah.
I really don't mind as much just because I know what I'm getting paid, and quite frankly, I'm starved for money, so...
Oh, okay, very well. Yeah, this doesn't pay a lot.
Yeah, also, the good thing is, if I come in at a certain time, I can just walk out.
Oh, yeah, that's true, too, yeah.
Yeah.
No. Now, Ken, when you were in a managerial position, were you...
I'm salaried now.
Oh, you're salaried now, okay, all right. And Trey, we know that you're an entrepreneur yourself, so you probably put in a lot of long hours for one pay. So
yeah, just a bit.
Yeah.
So
they'll try to get you.
Yeah.
And when it comes to stuff like this, I've always been one to adopt technology. I'm not a Luddite. I don't sit there and go, oh, I don't know anything about popular culture. I didn't care anything about popular culture when I was your guys' age.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I was going to ask you guys something, but let me finish my thought on what I was going to say before.
Of course.
So, the world is always shifting and changing, and you've got to change with it. You've got to adapt to technology and the way things are because it's always going to be different. Yeah. I read a newspaper for 20 plus years.
Oh,
but there aren't any newspapers anymore, and the ones that do exist, the delivery is terrible because nobody's selling them anymore because they're just nobody reads them. So you have to adapt to technology, but I'm not adapting to bringing out my own stuff unless they give me a heck of a discount.
Exactly.
I will continue to search out places that have cashiers. I hate Walmart anyway, and I will avoid them. And I hate them more for the fact that they will stop you to look at your receipt for a set of
toilet paper.
Toilet paper or paper towels, which they've done to me. Mm-hmm. And they are arresting your freedom of movement with no reasonable suspicion. Mm-hmm. So, yes, they can sit there and say this is private property and we can do this, but you're in a gray area there. I think that if enough people sued them, that they would find out, because I did retail security and people get sued all the time for bad stops.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I think you're in a gray area there. But what I was going to say is, I hear the kids say all the time nowadays, it just hits different. Does that mean that? So you're both already chuckling. This is why I ask your sister stuff, and not you guys, because she doesn't make fun of me when I ask her something.
It's like a line out of Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Whenever you say slang to me,
I mean, at least you didn't have to explain to him what. I'm not even gonna get into that one.
So, but does that just mean it feels different when you're doing something different?
Yes, it's like this hits different, when you were a kid, because you remember it being a lot better as a kid. Stuff like that. Yeah.
I akin it to, and when I was a kid, I loved Thanksgiving because you always smelled the turkey, the parade was...
Really? I thought it sucked.
Well, I mean,
Wow.
the parade was
Wait
on.
till you hear the Happy Happy Christmas song.
Yeah, the parade was on. The turkey was in the oven. You know, mom and dad are in the kitchen getting everything whipped up. It smells great.
Right.
Now, that's cool when I was a kid. But now when I'm in charge of all that stuff, it hits different.
Yeah.
So that's where I use that it hits different when something like that, when it goes from something you remember good to something bad.
If you ever hear me use the words "it hits different," you probably ought to send me to a psychiatrist.
You probably hit something before you
I
said
am
that.
part of Gen Z, and I don't use it.
You know, I
I
don't
don't even think
drink,
Maddie uses it.
and I don't do drugs. But there's a dispensary right across from work that there was a couple days. I was like,
You know what? You know.
there's several guys that come out of there that are very pleasant to talk to.
Yeah, just
I'm
be
sure.
careful. Scott once walked around the entire house in Phasmophobia with a thermometer, and it was off the whole time. So he's looking for the ghost room with the thermometer, and it's off the entire time.
That man works at a dispensary, though. I think.
Yeah.
Come on.
Do you know what any of that meant?
Yeah, actually, Phasmophobia is a ghost hunting, and when you go to ghost hunt, you use a thermometer to check for cold spots in the room. So, but if
Yeah,
the
you're looking
thermometer's
for-
off, you can't tell if it's.
He was so high, he's like, oh my god, I'm high.
See, that's not a cool amount. When you have to verbally exclaim, that's not a
Yeah.
cool amount.
Yeah.
But
I hope nobody skipped Christmas dinner to listen to us tonight.
I hope Scott's listening to this. I'm sorry, buddy. But to go back to the Walmart point to wrap that up, I know it's about the principle, right?
Mhm.
But I don't care at all about the principle. I will go in there, I will hand bag, hand scan, I'll even give myself the discount coupon. If it means I don't have to look into the dead eyes of a teenager or
Holding a phone,
a
looking
middle-aged
disinterested.
person
Right.
who is just completely checked out from the last
They're-
5, just
They're dead
lovely
inside.
customers
See,
before
most
me.
cashiers I've run into have been very pleasant people with a happy-go-lucky attitude. So I don't know where you've been shopping at.
Walmart, they exist.
I don't go to
I know that-
Walmart.
I don't either, or at least try
Now,
not to.
I will say at least Target only has like 4 self-checkouts, and they have more people. And I'm going to be interested to see what happens this year at Christmas time.
Well, they are coming out with different technology. Like you can't just weigh lemons for a PS4 now. You can't do
yeah.
that. Yeah.
People were doing that.
Yes.
Oh yeah, they
agree
were
with that.
stealing them blind.
But
Oh my gosh.
probably enough complaining about Walmart.
Well, you guys lost me about 10 minutes ago. I was just waiting for you to finish. So. As I'm
You
sure most of the
started this.
listeners are too.
All right, go on.
All right, all right. Now,
We're a wrestling podcast. Get back to
So
it.
I got a history thing to get to, but I was just doing a little bit of quick research before we got into that. Oh, and we might as well go over the schedule because we're actually in the update portion.
yes, we are.
of the
So
show.
go right ahead with that.
We actually discussed this on the last podcast.
Mm.
So next year, I want to do 40 podcasts, and I'll supplement that with 20 written posts. So
Okay.
basically 5 pieces of content a month.
Mm.
The 4-week months we'll do 3 podcasts. The 5-week months we'll normally do 4, but I'm stopping at 40. So if we've got an extra, which I think we might next year because it's leap year, we might have 5 months with a 5th week.
Mm.
That last one in December will be a written post. I'll only do 3 in December.
Now,
Because after this, nobody might want to listen to us ever again anyway.
Look,
well, with that being said, also
Yes.
we might have a bonus episode or 2 thrown in if something
Big happen.
big happens.
Because so Uncle Dan and I are going to record 2 episodes sometime in December for the first 2 weeks of January. But
Okay.
then after that, we want to get closer to the actual air date. So if we're going to release the last one the 4th week in January, we don't want to record it till the 2nd or 3rd week in January because
We're getting way ahead of ourselves.
we're getting way ahead. So we're talking about stuff, and it just happened when we're talking about it, but we don't publish the episode till
yeah.
December. So like today, it's it's November 6th, and this is going to be the Christmas episode that we put up. So we want to get closer to the air date.
Yeah.
So I'm not expecting you to be there for 40 episodes. We'll get you in when we can. If we have a special thing we want Trey there for, we'll get him in there. But Uncle Dan and I may take, and if we get close to the deadline and I can't get anybody together, I'll just do a solo episode on a history topic, and because I think we can comfortably make that schedule. I was worried about getting way ahead of our skis, but I think that we can do that schedule.
I think that sounds pretty reasonable. So
Yeah.
So before we completely go off the rails here, let me get into the history topic for this month.
Been on the rails.
No, we haven't been on the rails yet.
here's train station. Here's us.
Ever since we started recording here, man, barely talk about history.
Well, that's because you and Uncle Dan can't keep focus for more than 5 seconds.
Right.
ADHD.
All right, where was I now?
I call
there we
HD.
go.
You can have 80.
Oh,
Okay.
before I get into this history topic, I was telling your Uncle Dan, I am somewhat chagrined
Okay.
because I have been laying it on pretty hard to a true wrestling legend from the 1980s. I have been talking real bad about Hulk Hogan, or as I know him affectionately, Bogus, for the past several episodes. And I'm sure that he probably has some really good qualities. I don't know what those are, and I couldn't tell you right off the top of my head. But I'm sure that they're there. And I've probably been a little bit over the top with my criticisms of the fact that he couldn't tell the truth if his life depended on it.
He texts you crying again?
No.
To be fair, a couple of those lies I think just have to do with room temperature IQ, like the whole thing with the national date line.
Oh, yeah.
National date line.
He crossed the international date line, so he wrestled 400 times one year, not taking into effect when you come back, you lose the extra day.
Or how he was the originally auditioned and was going to be the bass player for Metallica.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that one's not low IQ. That one's just stupid.
But now you guys have gone off, and you now have started besmirching the man too. So I think we need to lay off Hulk Hogan and Tony Khan because it's Christmas.
Okay. Well, who else can? Who are we going to lay into then?
A Glacier, I would say, in about 20 minutes.
Okay, well let's proceed then.
But Merry Christmas, Glacier. Okay, so getting back to what we were going to actually talk about.
Right.
So Christmas night, 1911. Let me set this up. I hate when you drop your head when I say, let me set this up. It's
I'm
not like I'm going to
listening.
go on to this long tirade about this thing.
Did I say this sucks? No, I dropped my head. Keep going.
So, Stanislaus Zbyszko, who we've talked about for the last 3 podcasts,
Yes.
he wrestled Frank Gotch in 1910, and Gotch beat him in a very controversial match.
Right.
Gotch did tackle him off the handshake and pinned him in like 10 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And Zbyszko was so upset he was going to walk off the mat, but they convinced him to come back. Gotch legitimately beat him for the second fall in like 30 minutes, and then Gotch would never wrestle him again. But Zbyszko didn't get that memo for several years. He stayed in the United States and he campaigned for a title shot, and should have. He was the number 1 contender, but Gotch wanted nothing to do with him.
Yeah.
So on Christmas night, 1911, Zbyszko takes a match against Giovanni Rasievich, which it's funny, we're talking about Hulk Hogan, because he could have been the Hulk Hogan in 1911. He was built.
He was.
He
was.
had an incredible build.
Yeah, he did.
For his arms were probably 20 inches, which that just didn't exist back in that day. But Rasievich was huge, but he was not that great of a wrestler. Zbyszko was a much, much better wrestler. Zbyszko was pretty huge too, but he wasn't muscular like Rasievich. And so Zbyszko takes a match with Rasievich and agrees to throw him 3 times in an hour because Rasievich has just wrestled Gotch, who beat him.
Mm-hmm.
So Zbyszko wants to beat him handily, and that he thinks will set him up for another title shot with Gotch.
Right.
So they agreed to a wrestling match in Madison Square Garden in New York City. It's no wonder that wrestling had a heck of a time getting started in New York when you have stuff like this going on.
Mm-hmm.
Because Zbyszko says, I will throw you 3 times in an hour, which he could have if the guy would have wrestled him. But Rasievich knew, well, I don't have to beat him. I just got to keep from being thrown 3 times in an hour.
Yeah.
So for the next hour, all he basically did was hold on, paw, and just irritate the crap out of Zbyszko, but never really tied up with him. And another top contender, Tom Jenkins, who was pretty much retired by this point, but he and Gotch wrestled 8 times. But the last 2 we can take out because he wrestled him after he started becoming the defensive tactics instructor at the U.S. Military Academy. But in their prime, he wrestled Frank Gotch, and he beat Gotch 3 times, and Gotch beat him 3 times.
Yeah.
The only really serious threat to Gotch during his whole title reign was Jenkins.
Yeah.
And Zbyszko now because he doesn't want to wrestle him.
Right.
Fair.
So Jenkins is refereeing this match and starts telling Racevich, you need to start wrestling, do something. You just can't hold on all day. And, of course, Racevich just continues to hold on to him and everything. So at one point, Jenkins gets really frustrated and taps him on the back, which a lot of times was a signal for a fall.
Mm-hmm.
Racevich jumps up like he's won something, raises his hand in the air, and leaves the ring. Because if he won one fall, he would be considered the winner of the match.
Mm-hmm.
He leaves the ring. Jenkins is yelling for him to come back. There's been no fall. And Racevich acts like he can't understand him because he's from Italy. He's an Italian champion. He acts like he can't understand him, even though he understood his instructions and everything else.
Right.
Yeah.
So Jenkins is getting ready to come out there and get physical with the guy, which I don't know if he could have done anything at that point in time. He'd been retired for like 4 or 5 years from the time, but I wouldn't have wanted to mess with Jenkins.
Yeah.
But Zbyszko is furious too because Zbyszko knows what he's doing. He's trying to play off and get out of there.
Yeah.
So the fans, of course, by this time, Jenkins is not the only one yelling because the fans are yelling for Racevich to get back in there, and the crowd is about 50-50. Half of the crowd is for Zbyszko, half of the crowd is for Racevich. Well, Jenkins has had enough of calling him back, and he just disqualifies Racevich, raises Zbyszko's hand. So what do you think happens when you're in a place where the outcome of the match is controversy? And this match took place December 25th, 1911. And half of the crowd is... Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Riot!
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. The Polish fans and the Italian fans started taking their Christmas cheer out on each other.
Oh, wow.
And the New York City police had to get involved. And would you believe that the New York City police did not want any more wrestling in New York for a while?
Imagine
That's hard
that.
to believe.
There were lots of stories like this in New York history. That's why it never really did anything until Curly took over up there. They had lots of big matches, but they had trouble drawing fans to it.
Yeah.
And then you'd have high-profile stuff like this happen. This was a contest.
Yeah.
They were wrestling legitimately, but one guy was wrestling and one guy wasn't. And then the fans, they had a pretty good Donnybrook that was not a work at all. And the police did not enjoy having to break that up and getting involved in those fisticuffs themselves. So I wrote a post about that on the website, which I called the Christmas Night Wrestling Fiasco.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just another black eye on professional wrestling. And that was one of the things that made it hard for pro wrestling to get going around the country as a spectator sport.
Yeah.
Because so many disreputable things happened around it. This was a legitimate contest where the guy knew exactly what he was doing, but a lot of times there were gambling schemes going on, other distasteful things, and it just normally really ticked people off. So for Christmas night, 1911, the fans in Madison Square Garden got into a big old fisticuff. Merry Christmas and all a good night.
That is a very New York thing. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
Well, I don't see him having punch-ups all that often at the other sporting events. Well, I guess Philadelphia, you probably don't want to go in there and another visitor team.
Now, what do you
jersey.
think would have happened
Possibly.
if Bruno Sammartino would have lost in New York?
Oh, there'd have been a big old riot.
Exactly.
So when Ivan Koloff beat him, they didn't even give Ivan Koloff the title. Didn't raise his hand.
Yeah.
He beat Bruno. Bruno sat there for a second. They got Ivan Koloff out of there. They gave him the title back in the dressing room outside of there because they were afraid the fans would go crazy and kill him.
Yeah.
Because Bruno Sammartino was basically the Italian Superman.
Yep.
He was their hero. I mean, it's like...
And New York had a history of putting the belt on ethnic heroes. Mm-hmm. So it was Argentina Rocca before Bruno. Then it was Bruno. Then it was Pedro Morales, who was of Puerto Rican descent. Then it was back on Bruno.
Yeah.
And really, Superstar Billy Graham and Bob Backlund were the first two WWF champions, or WWF champions at the time, that kind of broke that mold.
Yeah. I think Pedro Morales is kind of a forgotten champion.
Yeah, because people saw him in the 80s and he was older. And that's what happens to a lot of the guys. Yeah. People see them when they're older and broke down and go, oh, I don't know what all the big deal about that was, but you didn't see them when they were in their 20s.
Exactly. It's like,
I mean, we thought, when we were kids, we thought Gene Kiniski was old, busted, and broke down.
Yeah.
Well, he was old, busted, and broke down at that time.
Well,
but in his 20s and 30s, he was such a great athlete. Lou Thez was willing to drop the title to him, and Lou Thez was very particular about who he dropped the title to.
Well, back in the days of Georgia and Florida, when you saw Hacksaw Jim Duggan, you saw Junkyard Dog, you're like, wow, these guys were great. Then you see them in the WWF, and you're like, wow, these guys have really went downhill.
Yeah, if you don't see Junkyard Dog and Hacksaw Jim Duggan in Mid-South, you'll never know what the big deal about them was. Because if you see the Fat Happy Dog in WWE, you're like, he's not that great.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He was famous for bringing a chain to the ring. That was about it.
Oh.
Yeah. So he could grab them cakes.
Yes.
And then his girlfriend would get the wire cutters out from under the thing and chop it for him.
That was...
Oh, you're talking about Buddy Matthews and all
that.
We watched the worst match of my life. They tried to break a ladder 3 times, and three times that man needed a chiropractor.
Right, and that was the wrong match. The match that they had a week or two before that was the good match. Whoever bought the ladders for this ladder match, the ladders didn't break, which is what they're supposed to do. Because when they break,
okay, for a second there, I thought I misheard him. I'm like, wait, break the ladder?
It broke them. The ladder didn't break. So they hit the ladder.
They had it like that, and they dived.
So when the ladder doesn't break, they take all that impact on their body on the ladder.
Yeah, I know. It's just like breaking boards.
They got slammed 3 times.
Yeah, it never broke a single ladder. Whoever the guy was that bought those ladders should be fired or slammed on his own ladders. Because that is brutal.
But see, that reminds me of that match, or it wasn't even a match. I think Jim Cornette was out in the ring running his mouth, saying what a physical specimen that he was. Yeah. He was going to wrestle this guy. This right. What is Mulkey? Maybe like 160 soaking wet. And he's in there and he's like, I'm going to fight this guy.
Mulkey-mania.
But anyway, Big Bubba Rogers is out there with him, and Dusty Rhodes comes out and he's going to hit Cornette with the chair, but Big Bubba Rogers gets in the way. Well, it was an old wooden chair, and it wasn't a gimmick chair.
Oh.
And he slams Big Bubba Rogers over the head with it, and it stays on, it didn't
it's
break
like
away.
A horse collar on him.
So he's wearing a horse collar.
But Bubba's just standing there looking at him.
And Dusty Rhodes is like, oh. And that was a great spot.
Bringing the wrong prop to work will always be a terrible mistake.
Well, this guy, I think they were the right props. I just think they bought the wrong props. Because these ladders did not break. It was like, and I hate ladder matches. They've been done to death. Mm-hmm. And that one was particularly brutal because I'm like, they're taking all that impact on their body because not one of those ladders is broke yet. So they dive off and do a splash, and both guys are taking all of that right on their body.
There was also a moment where one of them handcuffed the guy to the pole, and then the guy's girlfriend brings out wire cutters.
She got bolt cutters under the ring.
Just chopping away.
Just happened to be sitting there.
Yeah. How convenient.
Yeah. You know what we need to maybe a podcast in the future this coming year sometime. I think we need to review the Roddy Piper Greg Valentine dog collar match.
Oh yeah, that match is brutal.
That match is brutal, but once again, it was a dog collar match. But you only got those on special occasions.
Yes.
They weren't overdone.
Shock collar, dog collar.
No, they got collars around their neck, and they've got a length of chain, and they whooped each other with this freaking chain.
Actually, Roddy Piper suffered permanent ear damage.
Yeah.
From the match,
not on purpose, but yeah. Because it's hard to work a chain.
Yeah. unforgiving piece of steel.
I
Yeah.
will say it would have been interesting. Like, I mean, obviously the way WWE or whatever the heck would do it would be dumb, just because they've kind of lost it. But if you actually get handcuffed to the thing and you have to start figuring out how to move, like, if the guy actually had to figure out how to move around like that,
No, both colors.
do what?
Both.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Like, it would have been
That's what that
interesting.
was for.
Like, he actually has to fight one-handed, stuck against it, because you could slide it around the thing hypothetically. It would have been interesting, but you just bolt cutter it off. Okay, congratulations, you've just given him a brass wrist or
Metal wrist, yeah.
I don't know if the collar you described was more or less
It
funny
was
than what
leather.
I was originally
It was leather and studded, and they were
Yeah.
connected together by a chain in the middle.
I was imagining one of those shock dog collars
Oh,
while they
no.
try to fight each other,
Yeah.
just writhing.
No, it wasn't that.
That's gotta be inhumane.
They didn't do anything. But, I mean, they did some really stupid stuff. So,
Yeah.
the worst gimmick match they ever came up with, and it was a lot shorter in Tennessee. I think it was like 10 or 12 feet.
Yeah.
But it was still enough. But they would get these 20-foot scaffolds, and they'd have these scaffold matches, which were horrible.
oh yeah, you were telling me about that in the car one night.
They were absolutely horrible because everybody was scared to death they were going to fall off, and they would hang from the bottom and drop. And Jim Cornette blew both knees out doing that.
What
Yeah.
man thought a scaffolding match was a good idea?
The
Whoever
guy
the
in
booker was
Tennessee,
at
and,
that time.
and then Dusty picked it up in Crockett. But they used a construction scaffold that was like 20 feet in the air. The
Yeah.
Tennessee one was only like 10 feet up. So if you're hanging from it, you're only 4 feet off the ground.
Yeah.
Not 16, feet off the ground. That was the worst. And that is one match you don't see today. They got rid of that because
Yeah.
the chance of injury is just too great. And they're terrible. Because even a well put together professional scaffold moves. So these guys get up and walking, and the thing is shifted all over them. So everybody sits down on it and starts pummeling each other, and then somebody kind of slides over to the side and hangs on and then drops off. And you really need light guys to do that because big guys
yeah, the
blow
whole
their
thing just flips.
they blow their knees out and ankles and everything else. So there was nobody getting their knees blown out or their ankles blown out, but
Or shocked.
well, I think people were shocked when they first saw it. What did you guys think about Glacier?
Yeah, let's get on to
So
this.
we watched the first match that Glacier had on TV, which was against Big Bubba Rogers. I think, and that's the Big Bubba, the guy that you saw, that's the guy that took the chair over his head
Yeah.
10 years before that, or 8 years before that, whatever it was. They had apparently had a match that wasn't on TV in the arenas, but this was the first match on television. So I've got a lifelong martial artist here, someone who's done martial arts most of his life,
Hello.
and you guys can give your perspective on what you thought about it.
Would you like to go first, or shall I?
Go first. Go nuts.
Okay, so when I saw Glacier come out, I immediately thought that this is going to be like, it's so overhyped or like over exaggerated. It's like the type of stuff people would do to make fun of martial arts. Whenever I was a kid, you'd have people who would be like doing those crazy karate poses where like one hand's outstretched, the other one's up by your face, and then they're doing that weird back stance like they're doing some type of distorted warriors pose. And he's so slow. There's no power by the time there's contact. It looks like he's doing discount Tai Chi. Which, yeah, would be an insult to anybody who does Tai Chi. Because honestly, I believe they could hit people harder than that guy.
Yeah. Oh.
And he was a legitimate martial artist.
It's just,
But
he
that
was terrible at
it looked
acting
like
and
Kung Fu
projecting
Theater
it.
from the 70s.
Oh,
It was so slow, and that was the thing that everybody talked about. It was just so slow. And then some of the things that he was doing had no power.
So, whenever I saw it, the only thing that kept going through my mind is that is the look of regret. That is, you could see the sentences. I told him this isn't how the move is done. As he's going through his intro, he's probably just as disappointed as everybody else was there. So I feel like
I'm sure WCW was disappointed because they spent $500,000 on his entrance.
that was the look of regret.
Well, the thing, and I agree with both gentlemen here and that are guests. But the thing that got me is the Glacier persona didn't get over with the fans.
Right.
So they repackaged this guy as a coach. as like a gym coach. Then he's not getting over, so hey, let's bring Glacier back. We'll give him new armor. We'll give him a new blood runs colder.
Oh yeah, that was the other thing that I thought whenever I saw him. I'm like, this dude is doing Mortal Kombat cosplay.
Yeah, he did look like Sub-Zero.
Yeah, if Sub-Zero got his costume from the dollar store,
Yeah,
7-Eleven Sub-Zero.
yeah.
that's somehow worse.
So, but I want to know, what was World Class Championship Wrestling thinking by,
Well, that was
hey,
World Championship.
or what?
WCW.
Yeah, it's like, wait a minute, this didn't work the first time. It's got to work the second time.
We've been watching a lot of World Class, if you couldn't tell.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. Well,
and it's just, you know what was worse than what was worse than the Glacier thing though? Remember the Kiss Demon?
it was.
Oh,
sorry, the what
yeah.
now?
Dale Torborg's kid.
Yes, they had Kiss show up on a WCW show one night,
Okay. That's better.
and horrible. They were horrible.
Terrible.
I mean, because
Garbage.
they didn't want to be there,
Yeah.
but they were on there too.
How far have we fallen that we've got to perform here at this
Exactly.
wrestling show?
But they're there because they're unleashing this character called the Demon. Or was it the Kiss Demon or just the Demon?
It was the Kiss Demon, then it was the Demon. Was his name Dale Torborg?
Yeah, it was one
Because
of
his name was Dale Torborg. His dad was Jeff Torborg, the
Yeah.
baseball manager.
Yeah.
Because he ended up... What a shock. This gimmick didn't get over at all.
Yeah.
Within 6 months, he was working for his dad
Yeah.
as the strength and conditioning coach for the baseball team. His dad was the coach.
Yeah.
His dad was a Major League Baseball coach.
So this guy comes out of this crypt, if you want to call it. He comes out of this
Of his
crypt
career.
dressed like Gene Simmons. Face
Yep.
paint, the hair.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I was like, what was WCW thinking?
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, he didn't last 6 months, and he was out of wrestling, and his dad's strength and conditioning coach.
Yeah.
Wow.
And if you ever have to watch him, it's even a little bit more painful than watching Glacier.
There were actually, the last couple years of WCW, there were lots of things that were worse to watch than watching Glacier.
But
I'm sure.
whose
'cause that's
fault
the
is that, Ken?
downfall.
WCW's.
Vince Russo.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he just made a dog's breakfast at WCW. He didn't have that hand restraining him like he had in WWE.
Exactly.
They just turned him loose, and you can't turn the Village Idiot loose.
But I don't know how the guy still gets jobs.
That's a little rough. Mr. Village Idiot.
Okay.
You can't turn Mr. Village Idiot loose with
Yeah.
no controls and not have that kind of stuff.
Right.
Although, compared to what Jim Cornette and others call him, I'm being very kind.
Well, yeah, you are.
Compared to what these guys say.
Well, I mean, for starters, you have to have a language filter for your podcast.
Yes, no swearing. I'm tired of cutting all these things out of here.
I haven't said it.
Now, I will say, Dutch Mantel sometimes says words like that.
Oh, yeah.
But when they were talking about bookers and creative teams, Dutch Mantel said you could look up Vince Russo's name in the dictionary, and there'd be one word: shits. SHITZ. With the Z, because that's how bad he was.
Cut.
Yeah, now I got to go back through this thing.
I'm repeating what Dutch Mantel said.
You act like it's so much work. I spent 6
Are you
hours
using
editing
the
out how many
caption
times
the
Maddie
right
cursed.
excuse?
Yes, I am. I'm just repeating what somebody else said.
I've lost my place
Well,
again.
we were talking about how awful WCW was towards the end.
Oh, yeah.
All right,
and,
well-
and Vince Russo being an uncontrolled mope.
Yeah.
We know he sucks. So, and WWE has been terrible the last few years because Vince has lost his mind. But
Of course.
there's one shining hope we have for WWE, and that is now that Paul Levesque, Triple H, is in charge of creative again. And when NXT was good, Triple H was the creative mind behind it. And what you guys watched that I showed you was his way to introduce a martial arts-based character, Aleister Black.
Right.
So what did you guys think about that? That was Triple H's work at NXT.
Yeah. So, as far as Aleister Black, I don't want to, like, point to the other guy too much, because, like, I know part of that is the WWE showmanship, and I can get onto that rant in a bit, but his techniques and everything were crisp and actually looked real. The only reason that it was tipped to me that it was fake is just because the way what we grew up watching, but...
Right, people don't move like that when they're really knocked about.
It's kind of like that, who was it, Christopher Saruman, Lord of the Rings?
Oh, God damn it.
Basically...
See, here we go again. I'm going to have to put a language warning on
Lee.
this episode.
Christopher Lee. Censor it with Christopher Lee.
Yeah, Christopher Lee, when he was doing Lord of the Rings and he was Saruman, you know how he gets stabbed in the back?
Mm-hmm.
The director tried telling him how he had to sound when he stabbed somebody in the back, or when he got stabbed in the back, and he's like, no, that is not how somebody the sound somebody makes when somebody gets stabbed in the back. When they get stabbed, all the air gets driven out. That's basically what we have whenever we deal with watching WWE after watching UFC, because you'll see the dude getting hit on like the side of the head a little bit, and he like stands, ragdolls, falls over like a mannequin just getting shoved over at the mall. And
most knockouts are not that clean.
Right, and that's not even a knockout. He gets up. He's just stunned, and it's like, that's not how that works. That is not how any of that works.
For context...
But as far as Aleister Black goes, like, yeah, his techniques all look correct. Like, it sells, it's just the other dude just looks over the top.
Yeah. For context, Christopher Lee served, so he knows what stabbing someone sounds like.
Yeah. The actor who played Saruman in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I know who Christopher Lee is.
Okay.
Sir Christopher Lee, he was knighted.
Yes,
Respect.
Sir Christopher Lee.
Yeah.
Just like Dame Judi Dench.
Yeah. Or Cher, I don't know. What did Prince
Cher
go by
was
for that while?
Cher was not knighted, and Prince was not a true prince.
No, well, I don't even know what to call the symbol he went by for a while.
The symbol.
The symbol?
Yeah, we are getting completely off the rails.
No, I'm going back to Aleister Black. He walks like Prince, so it makes sense.
I am so sorry to anybody that's stuck around to listen to all of this today.
Merry Christmas, everybody. So, I enjoyed his opening. I enjoyed how hard he went into the character, because, like you said, it was based on his dad's religion, and also he just kind of put his own twist on it.
Mm-hmm.
If they can match him with the other guy, like Trey was saying, it would make a perfect match.
Well, I'm going to tell you,
They have to.
we will review. I'll have you back for this, because there was a lot of martial arts in this.
Yeah.
Right.
The best match, I think it was 2020, it could have been 2021, because your Uncle Ron asked me if I had seen this, and I was like, no, I didn't watch anything.
Mm-hmm.
He says, go back and watch that event. It's a one-match event, but you got to see the match. Well, they put that match on YouTube.
Yeah.
Right.
So we don't need Peacock anymore. It's on YouTube. And it is from TLC, and it's Aleister Black versus Buddy Matthews.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Buddy Matthews was the guy in the match we watched that kept getting crushed on the ladder. And thankfully he caught the girl and took all of the brunt going through the
Oh,
table.
yeah.
But he is very fast and very fluid as well. And they had a fantastic martial arts-based presentation match.
Yeah.
Okay.
I hope Rhea Ripley didn't take offense to him catching her either. Because Buddy Matthews and Rhea Ripley are together in life.
Yeah, they're engaged, getting ready to be married. And the Acclaimed. So I love the Acclaimed.
Yeah.
And Max Caster was coming out, and he goes, because Buddy Matthews, his fiance is Rhea Ripley, but on the WWE show, her and Dominic are supposed to be a couple.
Yeah.
And he goes, and there's Buddy, looking all ominous. Buddy's getting cucked by this kid named Dominic.
It's got to be a rough intro.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Well, they're sitting there, and the next time, they came out like a week later, and he said Buddy, and Buddy jumped out of the ring and kneed him right in the face. So whatever he was going to say, he wasn't going to get out the second time.
No.
I liked their little jab at Taylor Swift.
Oh, yeah.
But we can't repeat it because it's got a cuss word in it. So.
God, you want to talk about making people mad?
Oh, yeah. We could do a whole...
Oh, yeah, that is right. There was a cuss word in that.
Yeah. But,
well, the first song your Uncle Dan and I ever wrote was a country music song, and this could have been a million-selling
it was
record
the best
if we
song.
ever recorded it.
Never, yeah.
So
best song
it
never
was
released.
$3 whiskey, $12, and it's a word that rhymes with door that is a rather vulgar reference to a lady of the evening.
Oh,
That's $15. I ain't got no more. That was the name of the song.
I see.
And if you talk about your old dog Blue and the wife leaving you, that is a million-selling country western song.
All right, calm down there, Johnny Cash.
So I'm telling you, now the country music fans in the family, they did not enjoy it as nearly as much as
and
we
I
did.
don't understand it.
Did you mention Jim Beam enough?
No, I don't think
that might help.
we even
They just didn't like the chorus from the minute we started.
Oh yeah.
we even mentioned an old pickup truck.
Yeah, they just
Oh, yeah.
they did not enjoy our funny.
How old were you when you did this?
16, 17.
Yeah.
Dan was probably 14, 15.
Yeah.
I see. So this is your generation's Opa kissing Santa Claus.
We were
I don't think you heard
we
that
were-
story. Alex Brandon,
we were pretty
James all
obnoxious
came out singing about
kids.
how Uncle Tim was, or how they call Uncle Tim kissing Santa Claus.
I don't remember anything. I have blacked out so much of my life.
But yeah, me and Uncle Dan spent most of our childhood taking the piss out of other people.
I mean, that's fair.
Like our Christmas song.
Yeah.
Is that what this is leading up to?
Well, we haven't reviewed Hard Times yet,
Yep.
Okay.
but yes, we've got to do the Happy Christmas song.
Okay. It's probably gonna mess us up. So.
You guys might need some therapy afterwards,
Yeah.
just,
Quiet time.
But who needs therapy after seeing Hard Times, Ken?
That's right.
Right?
So, what did you guys think of Hard Times?
Dre.
One of the most famous promos of all time. And
Thanks for putting me on the
realize
spot here.
the point of that promo was to get people to come see that match or to buy the pay-per-view.
Yeah. I mean, for the most part, like, there is a shall we say, the class warfare is nothing new to our generation. I think it's exasperated a lot.
It was alive and well in our generation too.
That's what I'm saying. It was like when I was reading G.K.
And Dusty
Chesterton.
Rhodes is not my generation. He's my parents' generation.
Yeah.
We were
Well-
kids when we were watching him. Yes.
Okay, but I'm saying like pretty much nothing changes. Like that really was just an appeal to the
No,
whole class
I was going
war
to say
situation.
class
like,
warfare has been alive and well in the United
Yes,
States
because-
for a very long time.
Yes, because there's still a lot of elitist issue. Like there's still a lot.
Oh, yeah.
But like my generation is really getting kind of crazy about it lately. So it is interesting to see that it was being echoed back then as well.
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, I immediately noticed how he kind of just took stage. You know, he had the reporter kind of shoved out of view, not completely out of frame, but just there so you know he's there. So he's taking up the front of the view, and he's talking directly to the person sitting on the couch, which is a very smart move as a showman. Mm-hmm. And my God, if I did not hear the theme song to Good Times playing in the background as he's talking about all the hard-working people getting laid off, you know, he spoke to his audience and they heard.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a master of doing that.
He
could
was.
talk people into the building, and he could make you think he was on your side, and he was for the little guy. And
Yeah.
Well, he's the son of a plumber.
yep,
Yeah.
legitimately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Virgil Riley Runnels Sr. was a plumber, and because that guy he always referenced all the time was another plumber who told him, "You don't want to do this for your life."
Right, yeah. And, just a quick side note, that such animosity became between Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair. It probably became the centerpiece of WCCW, or World Class Championship Wrestling, for a while.
World Championship
Wrestling. Sorry.
You got
I
the
can't
you got
keep
the Von Erichs on the brain.
Yeah.
We're talking about going to see Iron Claw, so
Yeah.
I think that we got the Von Erichs on the brain right now.
See, you say it's like another language whenever we talk about video games and stuff. I can't even keep track of half these acronyms. It was just WWE when we were kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's because Vince wiped all that out. When
Yeah.
we started watching wrestling, the territories were still there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the time you guys came along, Vince had wiped all of that out. The only two things that existed were WWF and WCW, and Vince wiped that out in 2001.
Now, the good part about that is if you're struggling to remember, you can just say WW and someone will finish it for you. Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
You got good odds if you just start with WW.
Like I said, the Dusty Rhodes Ric Flair feud lasted for how long, Ken? Years.
83 to 89 when he went to the WWE.
Yeah, so about 6 years of these guys constantly.
They were the top two guys for
Yeah.
that whole time.
Yeah.
But back during the days, territory days, when they were just coming around, Ric Flair wanted to be like Dusty Rhodes.
Yeah, he wanted to be Ramblin' Ricky Rhodes.
Ramblin' Ricky Rhodes. I was like, wow, and now, they've...
But they developed real life animosity towards each other because Dusty was the booker and Rick was the world champion. So there was sort of a professional rivalry, and Rick didn't like the way Dusty booked sometimes. Dusty didn't like the way Rick would go over his head to Jimmy Crockett.
Well, one of these podcasts, we're going to have to talk about the Dusty finishes.
Yes. The non-finishes, which are still famous to this day.
Uh-huh. All right.
So, Happy Christmas is something we came up with when I was probably 17. Dan was probably 14.
Oh,
And
I
it's
see.
Happy Christmas. Thanksgiving sucks. Too much turkey. Crappy football games. Relatives you don't really like. And no toys.
Right.
And then you can just do that with any holiday.
Yep.
Happy Christmas. And then you just fill in the next holiday.
Oh, wow.
Father's Day sucks.
Halloween sucks. Everybody gets too much candy and gets sick to their stomachs and sits around and
I will not hear
complains.
this blasphemy in my presence.
It was a creative
And no
exercise.
toys.
And no toys.
It always ends in no toys.
I see.
Father's Day sucks. Every kid's name in the house on the card. One lousy tie. Terrible weather. And no toys.
I can see why you never release it. You'd have to make at least 12 versions.
Or have it 12 verses.
Yeah, 12
There's
verses.
only 10. There's not really holidays in August and September.
Oh, Hanukkah. They got it.
Yeah, you
Well,
buffer
we-
out
Yeah,
a lot.
it's close
You
enough.
buffer
Hanukkah's
out.
okay because, you still get dreidels and stuff like that. Such as
You still get some.
And I never
Yeah.
knock Valentine's Day because that's Christmas for adults most of the time.
I don't know. I like
Please
4th
don't
of
say
July.
that.
Do what?
Keep going.
You know what?
You're the one
annoys-
who put your mind in the gutter on
Right, exactly. You know what annoys me about you is you guys think you invented it. That's what annoys me about you guys.
I would not have this conversation with you in private. I will not do it over the air.
I'm not trying to have a conversation with you. I said I
Thank
wouldn't
God.
knock Valentine's Day because that's Christmas for adults.
Thank God.
I wouldn't knock Mother's Day. I'd knock Father's Day, but I wouldn't
You're
knock
not,
Mother's Day.
if you knock Mother's Day, your mother might knock you upside the head.
That's right. That's why I didn't knock Mother's Day.
Which, by the way, growing up, I'd be like, Happy Father's Day, Dad. And he'd be like, it sucks. It doesn't matter. And I go, that's going to be me one day. That's what that did to the kid. That's going to be me one day.
You're like obligatory gift card, or what is it? Obligatory greeting card day is obligatory.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We just got him candy and called it a day, typically.
Yeah, Mother's Day. They got all of this stuff all over the store and everything. Father's Day. One little section about that big. Ties go on sale. And everybody's like, who the hell cares about the old man? You know?
Right.
To be fair,
Although I got lots of number one dad shirts,
Uh-huh.
but let's face it, there wasn't much of a market for number two dads.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Because it'd be like, yeah, he's okay, but he could do better.
to be fair, like guys also need a lot less to be happy. I don't know if you've seen the entire genre of memes of like guys' apartments with just a TV, not even a stand, their game console, a like sleeping bag or a mat or something, and
Like a
like
beanbag
a single lawn chair.
Yeah.
I prefer a recliner.
Okay, but were you like spent more on
hey,
like furniture?
if I
You
got-
spent less on food because like all you had was like white rice and eggs in your house whenever Aunt Sherry and Mom raided your pantry.
No, my canister set consisted of white rice, because I normally had that for breakfast, sugar, and tea. I didn't have any soda in the house because I didn't drink it.
Mm-hmm.
I drank iced tea. I'd have the white rice normally for breakfast and some eggs because you need to get protein with each meal. And then I would make my lunches to go to work, meal prep like I do now.
Yeah. And if I
So,
recall
yeah, I
correctly,
had-
0 spices.
No, I didn't have any. Did I have any? I had no salt. I had no ketchup because I didn't use either one of those things.
Yeah.
I had butter because I'd throw that in the vegetables when I made them. Your uncles were the masters of the blandest vegetables you've ever had in your life. Because they just dump the can in the thing and heat it up. I'm like, throw some butter in there so you give it a little bit of flavor.
Right.
Did they even bother to throw salt in?
No.
Wow.
No Mrs. Dash, no nothing. No pepper.
Mrs. Dash doesn't really taste like anything if you just cook it like that, though.
So the secret to most things,
Right.
hamburgers, corn, throw a little bit of black pepper in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's fair.
And butter gets you a little bit of salt and a little bit of flavoring.
It's not nearly as bad for you as everybody likes to say it is.
I mean, a lot of that stuff is you just have to work out enough to burn it. People just don't want to do that half.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's like butter too. You know, they don't tell you got to eat 2 pounds of it a day before it starts to,
well,
Yeah.
It was just like the mercury scare back with the tuna. You know, oh, don't eat tuna; it's got mercury in it. Well, they didn't tell you got to eat 50 pounds of it a day
they didn't tell me it
for
didn't have
50 years before it starts to show up.
So other than the bodybuilders, nobody else was really in any danger.
Right.
So I love bodybuilding training. I've been doing bodybuilding training since I was 16 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I hate the bodybuilding lifestyle. 250-pound guys sitting around in medium-sized T-shirts eating 20 cans of tuna fish a day. Is that life? And my favorite story of all time, I was working out at Gold's Gym in Webster Groves. And these two guys were in their early 40s. They were going through a divorce. And so they got to get back in shape because they're going to start clubbing around to find somebody else who will be taken with their roguish charms. The two of them together, I wouldn't have given you $10 for. But anyway, they got a plan at least. They're trying to do something.
Mm-hmm.
So they come in, they're working out, and all they ever talk about is, scoring with the women and everything. And I was like,
hell yeah.
Most of the women I know are too healthy to catch little germs like you, but whatever.
They always talk about it. It's all they can think about.
Yeah.
So the guy that worked the front desk was
Right.
this really muscular guy, about my age that time, so mid-20s.
Mm-hmm.
And he comes in, and these two guys are sitting there, and it was one of the funniest conversations I ever overheard, because I was like, the three of you together, if your brains were dynamite, you couldn't blow your nose.
Mm-hmm.
So the three of them are sitting there, and the two guys are like, oh man, I wish I looked like you. You must get all the women. Typical bodybuilder.
Ugh.
He goes, oh, I don't date. And they both look at him like he's an alien. He goes, no, that is screw up my training and my gains. I don't myself.
Oh my gosh.
The duality of man.
And I'm thinking at the time, looking at all three of them, like, you sad, a word I can't say on this podcast.
My favorite one-liner that you had about that was the blind leading the pathetic off a cliff.
Oh, no, the blind leading the blind off the cliff into the abyss.
That was the blind leading the pathetic, but okay.
Well, you actually could have said that in this case. So I just never have been a fan of that whole bodybuilding lifestyle.
You put
And
some life in between.
Now, when I go to the gym, I'd say over half of the membership is women.
Mm-hmm.
Man, when I first started working out in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s, God help the poor woman that came into one of those gyms. She would be hit on from the minute she walked in the frickin' door.
Yeah.
But now it's a whole different culture, and thank goodness for that. It's much improved from what it used to be. How did we ever get on this story?
I have no idea.
You guys take me down the most darkest alleys and blind spots and everything else.
You cannot blame us for guiding your own mind to a topic. That was all you.
No, it wasn't. You guys said something that triggered that.
I mentioned something about your pantry being super.
Oh, that was
bland
it.
or-
And that we did that, guys.
That was
us.
me, and then you went on to all the stuff you would do with bodybuilding back before you had.
Well,
started
I didn't have a ton of spices and salt and all that stuff because when I was training hard, I didn't eat. Well, don't eat a whole lot of it now.
And you also don't like spicy food at all. It's
No.
like the spicy.
That's
seasoning
why
you
my
use is
resting
crushed
heart
red
rate is
seasoning.
still in the mid-50s.
Yeah.
You think in retrospect that 12 calories from the spices would have helped?
Look, you know what?
Yeah.
Wow.
I just didn't want them in my food.
Okay.
I'm more of a kind of a purist.
I see.
So, is that all you got to do all day long? Is come up with stuff like that?
All the time, yeah. Customers, coworkers, reps. I get the product though, so I'm doing the job.
So I think this is about as. This is probably the worst episode we've ever done. So
Come on now.
if
be
you're
fair.
still listening to this, I'm truly sorry that we ruined your Christmas. And hopefully you may still be interested in the history and might come back for the next episode in January.
There's a pause button. We're not responsible for them.
What do you mean there's a pause button?
They didn't have to listen, Dad. They stayed because they were loyal.
Oh, there you go. See, look at that.
Yeah.
We got the best listeners around.
That's right.
Exactly.
If they'll put up with this nonsense to hear a little bit of history.
Well, and I tell you, it's just not the history. It's getting other people's viewpoints of certain things. That's why we do the reviews. Glacier, Aleister Black, Hard Times promos. That's why we do some of the matches.
It doesn't sound so good, though.
Chiropractor
Oh, okay.
commercial.
Maybe that's your ENTJ brain.
Yeah, that's what I am. I'm an ENTJ.
I have no idea. It's a roulette wheel for me.
I think you're ENFP because you were literally just extroverted Maddie.
I mean, that's fair. All right.
And the people out there are like, who the heck is Maddie? What the heck is ENTJ and ENFP? Are these guys ever going to stick to a point today?
Nope.
ADHD.
So we covered all the topics.
We did.
We
huh?
did.
We covered all the topics. Oh, we got to have a topic for next time. What the heck are we going to talk about next time?
Well, you could show us a good AEW match that you were talking about.
Well, that was a good WWE match, but we could review that. We could.
I'm starved for any good match, Dad.
But I'm thinking about the history topic. The reason people actually
Well, I thought we
show up
was
and listen
going
to
to
this.
finish up with Stanislaus.
I did that.
Oh, okay.
We did that yesterday.
Oh, okay.
Were you not even listening to me?
No.
You're not even...
It goes in one ear and goes out the other with you.
You know what I never heard about?
What?
The Double Cross of the Gold Dust Trio. I know you wrote a book on it, but I have not heard a single thing about it.
Well, you should have been here for the last episode.
We talked about it yesterday.
How many episodes have you two recorded?
Just one.
Just a day?
No.
We usually do it on Sundays and
Yeah,
Mondays.
before football.
Okay.
So if you want to come over about 9 o'clock.
Oh, that's what it was. You were there for the middle episode. You were there when I was talking about Zbyszko not being
Yes.
able to get the match with Gotch and then setting up to what happened in 1925.
Yeah, it's the Star Wars
I'm
trilogy.
sorry I'm keeping you
gotta-
awake.
I'm practically nocturnal. I don't know why I'm yawning.
Yeah. It's like the Star Wars trilogy, hearing about their episode format.
So I still got to come up with a history topic.
Oh, shit.
I talked about Matsuda not too long ago.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say that's the only thing I could suggest because you had me proofread that one.
You know what? Maybe we'll talk about why Sam Rockman had to get a local wrestler as opposed to a Midwest wrestler. I briefly
Oh,
covered that,
okay. When we
but I
got
didn't really go in depth to that.
the kid out of Altoona.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's what we'll do.
All right.
We'll talk about why Sam Rockman had to use a local wrestler to be the Masked Marvel, as opposed to getting someone from the Midwest who the fans wouldn't have been familiar with. And if you've made it this far, you're doing better than me. So I'm going to have to sign off, and you guys say goodnight.
Have a good night, everyone.
Goodbye.
And Merry Christmas.
Oh yeah, this is the Christmas episode. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Yeah,
Merry
freaking
Christmas.
Christmas.
Oh, good Lord.